Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight we got a guest, Wayne from Mighty Armory. So we're going to throw what we do a little bit in, I don't know, oddball order, I guess you could say. So those of you listening at home, yes, everything else will continue as normal, but we're just going to have the interview first. So Wayne was nice enough and able to cut some time out of his busy schedule, so we want to be respectful of that and let him get going. So,
hello, everybody.
Howdy, Wayne. How
Hey,
are you?
Wayne.
Evening.
Hey there. Where do you want to start, fellas, ladies, fellas?
Well, let's first start off from the beginning. Let's tell them who you are, what you do, and what main product you started out with.
Well, I'm Wayne Canetti. I own Mighty Armory, and I use my middle name, Patrick, because it's very easy for people to remember and spell. So anyway, going back about 4 years ago, I designed some products and went ahead and patented them. And then I decided to build one half of one item, and that was the Swage Kit. It was a die with a drop-in shaft for rifle or pistol with a swage nipple that would obviously remove a crimp from a primer pocket. So I sold a few on eBay, and it was actually going pretty well. And then I redeveloped a second decapping die called the Blue. And I equipped it with extremely high-grade steels with new heat treatments to the market on the shaft, on the pin. The pins were Swiss machines, just as the shafts were, which allowed me to hold concentricity and almost guarantee you're going to hit that primer pocket every time. And, I had guys with single stage presses and, oh, yeah, there it is. And automated presses that started using these dies with these pins, and they were getting 30, 40, 50, 60, some guys 100,000 before anything happened to the pen. Something would have to go drastically wrong to bend or break it. So, we developed a reputation for absolute quality. The other thing, our machining is right at spec. And spec means A, B, or C, C being the lesser of the three. So I'll use a nut and bolt that you'd buy at Home Depot as an example. You put the nut on the bolt threads and it's loose. You turn a die into a tool head and it's loose. Well, as soon as you tighten the lock nut down, the die will cant a bit. Okay? It'll cant. Because that lock nut's going to turn that die up, left, or right, depending on where the threads are, down in the bushing of the press. So what I did is I went to an A thread and I demanded certain tolerances in the machining, so that when you turned our die down into a tool head, it remained steady and straight. So when you turned the lock nut down, once again, you remained at a perfect vertical alignment. And then all the other machining that was done on the dies, as some of you know, just to look at it, you could see the quality in it. In fact, you could see the quality in it when you took it out of the package. So from the decapping die, we went to the swage backing dies for the automated machines. We had two shafts again, one for small primer, one for large primer. Many of those, these days, you'll see two of those on an automated press, one in the swage station and then one again in the primer hold down station. And the ways those are designed, you'll set them against your web and then you'll back them out just a little bit. So there's about 5 thousandths between the web and the face of the shaft, which are concaved and radiused. And the reason I did that is there's zero contact with the flash hole, so there's no deformation to that web whatsoever. And it became basically a staple in the auto loading industry. I mean, I sold thousands of them, and I continue to sell them. So then from there, I used the same design: cap, drop-in shaft, same tolerances. And I chose high grade steels. Yeah, there you go. And that same decapping die design with a little bit of a bore change for the shaft, and then of course the bore itself, became a sizing die. And the first one we did was 223. The second one we did was 9mm for obvious reasons. And it's been a big hit. Now, key is when you drop the shaft down into the die, and just like with the decapping or the swage backing dies, you'll put a cap down on it. And what that does is it locks everything together. And with the design I created, it's modular. So once it's tightened up together, it becomes one. Again, perfect alignment. Rifle case concentricity is within half a thousandths all the time. I've never seen one of our dies size beyond a half thousandths or less in tolerance. So we have a slew, and I mean hundreds of guys using our dies now that shoot long range. Then they're getting away from the bushing dies and so on because they can't get the concentricity from those dies that they can get with mine. They can get the neck tensions that they want from my die because of the way our mandrel shaft is dropped into and built into the die. For instance, rather than a little ball that floats, we have a 1/4-inch mandrel that is part of the shaft that drops into the die at 50 Rockwell. And that mandrel is ground. So you have a 5 finish. So when that comes back up through the neck, to size that neck, you've got the bullet tension you want. You've got a perfect circle throughout the neck. And you'll notice a little bit of the brass color on that mandrel. And that's designed into the machining that we do. What that does is the next time you run a case through that, it's brass to brass. So there's no wear on the neck whatsoever. And it comes back through like glass. It cannot change your neck angles, your shoulder to neck angles at all. So you have a perfect round. The other thing that makes a difference too is the math that I did to create the diameters at the shoulder, the neck where the angle meets the neck in that radius, and then the diameter at the base 90 thousandths above the radius where the angle sets for the lugs to grab hold of the case. So you're getting better pressures, better powder burns, more accuracy, better velocities, and it's proven itself. We've won Ohio State, we've won in Oregon, we've won in Arizona, we've won in Georgia, and these are big events. We've won on the international stage, and a lot of guys now are saying, you know what, I'm done with the bushing dies. I can get this done in half the time and get a better round with Wayne's die, and they're moving over fast. Not because I told them to, but because the die worked like it should. They've been loading with the other dies for 2, 3, 4 years and going through all the different steps to get there. And now all of a sudden they pull the lever one time or go through one stroke with the lever, and they've got everything they need to send that. Well, I'll give you an example. Joe Hendricks Jr. shoots 308. His first 5-round group at 1,000 at an 8-inch steel target was 3.5 inches. You can take it from there. So that's Mighty Armory. Then we developed the seating die, which is universal. It'll do 9, 38, 40, 45, one die. Adjust easily. Can't scar a bullet because of the materials we're using. We brought synthetics into the industry. The shafts are all stainless steel, so they're not going to rust. The bushings that everything sets either into or above and turns down into can't move, perfectly concentric. Our new flare dies, I can't keep them in stock because they will flare your case to where it doesn't matter whether it's rifle or pistol either. When you set your bullet in on an autoloader with a bullet feeder, it will not move. The bullet stays nice and vertical. So when you move to that seating station, she'll push down nice and straight, and you put your crimp on it, and you're good to go. So our crimps aren't out yet, but they will be in a couple of weeks. I've taken my time to develop them. There's some unique features about them to make them work better. Again, I'm always determined to be beyond the past with everything I design. So we will have full sets very, very soon. But quite frankly, I mean, guys will buy my stuff and wait for the next part to come along so they can fill their tool head. And I've got a lot of lady customers too. You know, there's a lot of ladies shooting long range and IPSC, IDPA, USPSA. I mean, it's big for all of us. It really is. It's definitely an American game.
Well, I can say,
does Unicorn shoot? Can you hear me?
Now I can. I had it on mute. Yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
Do you compete or just play?
I started training for amateur competing. I mainly plink and hunt.
Okay.
And sporting clay.
Oh, okay. You like the shotguns?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of that for a lot of years.
Yep. I started steel shoots. I do that probably once every other week.
Nice. Yeah. How about you guys? Are any of you competing these days, or is it just a hobby for you? Trav, I know you do.
I don't. I just plink.
Just plink?
Same here, just plinking.
Plinking?
I shoot steel at gun club.
Okay, yeah. Steel's fun. You
Trap
too?
league occasionally.
Okay.
Otherwise hunting. Nothing
Nice.
competition yet. At some point in time, I'll actually get enough time where I can do that, but
Yeah,
hey, Wayne, we didn't talk about one thing.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about one thing that I actually really like on your dies that you offer too. Like I say, when I first met you, here's your decapper. And like I say, this is very nice. And this is actually very handy feature that I like. So like you said, first you came out with the 223 and then the 9. And then it did seem like from there, all of a sudden it was 300 blackout, 6.5, and it has just grown. And I go on your site all the time. A lot of that stuff is out of stock because guys are just grabbing them. When they come available, they grab them. But for instance, so here, this is literally my tool head I just grabbed off of the bench here.
Mm-hmm.
So for my 9, you can see I've got a Mighty Armory decapper.
Yeah.
And here's that swage backer you were talking about earlier.
Right.
And then I run the Mighty Armory 9mm
sizing
die right here. But what's nice is you sell with these, you get the option if you want to. You don't necessarily have to have a decapping pin on your sizing die. So you can switch it out.
There?
Yeah, so you can switch it out if you guys want, like for your 223, if you're running his decapper. Later on in the process, wherever you're at, you can put in just your expander and not run an actual decapping pin on it.
Yeah, what I call that is the pointer. And the reason I designed that was to act as a guide and to protect the threads in the shaft that the pin actually screws into. So if you decap and clean and then load, decap, clean, and then load, and you're going to size at that point, you don't need the decapping pin. What Trav is showing you is the pointer, which is basically a threaded shaft with the barrel that shaped and slatted like the pin, but there is no pin. It just ends there, and that acts as a guide so that the case, I'm gonna go this way, the case can enter into the die. And that guide will make sure that if that case is off a little bit one way or the other, it won't hit the lip of the case. So it keeps those threads clean all the time so that when you do use your pin for decapping and sizing at the same time, you take that out and you put your pin in. There's nothing in there that's going to stop it from going in all the way as it should. And another thing I want to know, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's 2 different angles where the shaft and the pin barrel meet. And the reason for it is this. When you turn the pin in and you reach a stop point, there's 2 flats on the shaft and 2 on the pin or pointer that you'll grab with a plier. And just turn that 1/8 of a turn and that pin will stay locked in place. You can't move. And again, if as long as the cap is tight on top, you're locked up, you're modular, everything is straight, everything is one, you're good to go.
Yeah, but what's also really nice though, Wayne, is what I like is sometimes, you know, you get something that happens, and let's say, example, for whatever reason, if you did break a pin or you got something caught up in here, the nice thing that I really like is you just unscrew the top, and then you can push out the assembly and clear out and clean or whatever you need to, and you can leave your die set up in your tool head.
That you can lock it down and just leave it there. Yeah, well, it's true with our seating die too. I mean, once it's locked in place, you're good for all your pistol rounds.
Yeah, see, I was looking at that today.
Yeah, did you see that?
I was looking at that today thinking I need to get one of those because I like the way that you got it set up.
Well, the barrel, we call them bullet barrels. They insert up inside the black body of the die. We call it a bushing. And that once you set that to where it's comfortable on your press, you can adjust that up or down for whatever, you know, COL you want, no matter what round you're loading. It's a piece. I mean, it's that simple.
Well, Wayne, will you tell us about the new little thing you got for your the little flickers?
Well, when you run on auto presses and you're running fast, you're also running hard. So if you've got primers that are dirty, you know, there's like grit inside them from the sulfur burn. And what they'll do is the anvil inside there will actually grab a hold of a pin, and it will pull back up after it's been pushed out. So your press wants to index at that point, and you've got a primer halfway in, halfway out of the pocket, and it can cause a mess. So what I did basically was I reduced the diameter of the cap about 50%. I added a flat wound piano wire spring that drops into the die cavity where the cap screws in. And that post on the end of the cap drops into the spring. And we remove 40 thousandths from that. So now you turn it down all the way where it makes contact with an O-ring, and you've got 20 thousandths between the face of the cap and the top of the shaft. So when you meet the primer, the spring will collapse that 20 thousandths. It'll push the primer out, and then that 20 thousandths will spring back and flick the primer off. It eliminates pullbacks 100%.
That's federal cases are the worst for that. Federal 40, they're the absolute worst for the primer withdrawal. It's what it's called. That's what Dylan calls it, primer withdrawal.
Yeah,
it sucks right back up into the case.
Yeah, most of us just call it, like Wayne said, pullback. And if you're running the auto press, it's not very fun.
I've had it happen on my 550. It's not an auto press, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let me just lead into this.
Press,
I don't know if you guys know or not. So let's just talk about auto presses. There's one of my favorite companies really likes your dies and your stuff, right, Wayne?
Yeah, very much so. Yes.
So much so that I think they come standard on those now, right?
They do actually, yeah. And they actually they have. They've been included as a die upgrade for almost 3 years.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
every press. So we're talking about
when the founder of the company actually owned it, and then of course he sold it to one of the big companies, and they still offer it as an upgrade. I'm very friendly with them.
Yeah, so we're talking about Mark 7. If you guys go and look at any Mark 7, all the ones that I've seen at least, in the last like at least a year, they've got Wayne's. I didn't know if it was an upgrade or if they just came standard. To me, it seemed like they just came with it.
Well, the Revolution, it was standard on the Rev and it was optional on the Evolution. But once the word gets out and people know something's good and they're buying a new press, they want the best to go with it. I'm not bragging. So they do buy the upgrade die package, which they're included in. And I have, I don't know, I can't guess how many hundreds of Mark 7 owners that use virtually all my dies. They do, yeah.
I say that's what I prefer. I really enjoy your sizing dies. They're my absolute favorite.
Well, you're going to enjoy the new Super Duty too.
Oh, tell us what's the difference between the TNTs
Okay.
and tell us what that is.
Okay, Gen 2 dies was a new steel with a new machining process and different heat treatments. Gen 3, I upped my game. I went to a powder metal. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Well, there are different types of metals, and there are different shapes and sizes that each different material that exists within a metal and get mixed together, okay, form that particular steel. A powder metal is when each component of that steel is literally turned to baby powder. And the way it's mixed, when it's melted and shaped into bars or round bars or whatever it may be, it's a very high grade tool steel, very expensive, very difficult to machine, but it's super hard and super slick. So once that's polished, the finish on it's very shiny, very slick. So what I was able to do was create a lubeless die that wasn't carbide. So now you don't have to worry about carbide cracking, breaking, loosening, any of those things, and you'll get probably 3 times the life out of the steel that we're making the TNT die with. And TNT, by the way, means tighter neck tension. So I found some math that worked where I could tighten the mouth of the die, the neck tension in the bullet seating area by 2,000ths and keep the die in spec. So you're going to develop a SAMI spec round. You're not going to be undersized with the bellying and the wasting and the bullets showing through and so on. In fact, it worked out so well, I renamed it and called it the TNT match. It's the TNT die. And it made it a lot easier for a lot of guys who, like, you know, don't load a lot and don't have a lot of experience loading to load. You know, it took the math out of reloading, if you know what I mean. So it's been a phenomenal success. I quite frankly can't keep them in stock. You know, they're going that fast. So you can size with lube, you can size without lube, doesn't matter.
That's good, yeah, because those carbides, they're just
you're going to get over 1 million sizings with that die, and it's fail safe. I mean, it's just that good.
Yeah, because the carbide, it's basically just a sleeve, and yours,
yes, and
what yours is not a sleeve then.
No, so it's solid steel. And then what I did was we did a mill down around the sizing area, and we press on an aluminum heat sink. And what that heat sink does is it radiates the heat away from the steel, away from the die, so it doesn't get hot like carbide will when you're running at 3,000 an hour. When you're running an insert die, whether it's carbide or something else, eventually the pressure from the fitting of the insert into the die, they're pressed in, and the glue that they use, that glue will break apart, and you'll have separations between where the contact points are from being pressed in after you've used it for a while, because you have dissimilar metals. One finds a heat range, we'll say, of A after 1,000 cycles, while the other side, the outside, may be at 1,200. So when you have dissimilar metals, you have different expansion rates. And after a while, the carbide will separate itself from the other metals. It will loosen. Sometimes they even crack first. And you might not even know that the insert is loose because you're going along sizing. And then you find out later that none of your cases are sized properly. You start looking around wondering what's going on, and then you find out that your insert is actually loose inside the die body. And then you try and fix it with a squeeze down, and you end up cracking it. Or if you drop it, you will break it. It will break. Carbide's very brittle.
Well, before all that, you're not going to be in spec anyways. You're going to be
Well,
getting.
no, they're terribly undersized.
Yeah, that's one reason, honestly, why when I switched over to your stuff, I was running another company's that's known to undersize, and it's a real pain in the. I could not stand it. And then when I switched over to your stuff, like you say, it is too spec.
It is the spec, and I'm sure you noticed the clean powder burn, the better case pressures, your brass is lasting longer, you're getting more feet per second, your SDs are lower, your ESs are lower. It's the whole ball of wax. When you can touch Sammy specs and you can actually get a round developed that performs like the powder load data says it will, then you know you're in spec, and that's what you're getting with our sizing. For instance, 4 to 6 thousandths tension on a particular 9mm, depending on whether it's coated or it's copper jacketed or it's plated. That's the range you want to be in. But when you undersize, think about this for a second. If you measure the bullet area around the the brass, where you can see it, and then you measure below that where it's wasted like this, there's probably 20 thousandths difference there. So that will pretty much assure you that there's 30 thousandths neck tension on a 9mm bullet.
Yeah, you get what we normally commonly call wasp. What do we call it? What's it called?
Wasting?
No, the hourglass figure on the.
Yeah, well, that's hourglassing, or But what I'm trying to say is, when you've got that much tension on a bullet, that creates an awful lot of pressure, and eventually 4 or 5 loadings, you're pulling case heads off the brass just above the web while that case is in that die. That, in other words, that brass is only good for 3, 4, 5 loadings at the very most. Mine 10, 12, 14, no problem.
Well, now what are these on the TNT? What are these, like these holes? I can see the heat sink as it looks very interesting, and then you got these 2 holes on the side of it.
Actually, we put 4 holes, 2 on each side, so to speak. And we did some testing with heat guns and sensors, and we like what we found. So we went ahead and we put them in there, and that was for venting and dispersing heat. But then I thought to myself, I don't know of anybody that makes a steel tool head now, particularly on automated presses. They're all aluminum. They're either cast like the Dillon or the machined like the Mach 7. Forge is using Dillon, and that other company, Fast or whatever they are, they're using the Dillon. So that's aluminum also.
Yeah, Fast.
So I thought, hey, if I have a full bearing surface of steel against aluminum, that steel tool head is actually acting as a heat sink without the holes. With the holes there, it actually acts like the wall, the insulation between an inside wall or an outside wall of a house. It slows the transfer of heat. So we're actually better off without those holes than we thought we would be. So going forward, the new TNT dies will not have the holes. They'll actually run 10 degrees cooler than they're running now. Good point, though.
I gotta say, thanks, Paul. What I was looking for was wasp wasted ammo.
Yeah, there's a lot of names for them.
Wayne, we have a question from one of the viewers. Do you have tech support at Mighty Armory?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You get that, Russ? There is tech support for you. He has a question he doesn't want to go into here on the show.
Okay. I answer questions for people all day long. I must have 100 to 150 a day.
Wow.
At least every day. Every day. And
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We've helped a lot of new loaders as well. We're all on social media, and we all see these questions that are asked that we kind of assume it's someone who's new. And, some of the comments down below don't really help that OP. So what I'll do is I'll message them and offer them some opinions and some advice to help them along.
I get reloading
yeah.
questions every day.
There you go. Good. I'm glad you're there to help these folks.
Well, I created Reloading Room, and we cater towards the new reloader.
Good.
Yeah, so not only are you selling just dies and decapping pins, you've got other stuff that you're selling now on your website.
Well, yeah, we've got sizing dies and flare dies, expanded dies, seating dies. Really, the only dies I need to get out there, which have already been designed and tested, are my crimp dies. But I haven't been able to keep up with what I'm selling now. So we just haven't had the machine time to get to the crimps. We need another machine. I mean, I will get to them. I will get to them pretty quick because I'm getting so many requests. But that's really what's taking place. I just can't. I'm already out of 223s. We just did a massive run of 223 dies. They're gone. It's less than a week. I'm out of stock.
Yeah, literally, guys, when I say that you go on his website, if you see something that you're interested in, you better buy it because it might not be there in a couple days. That's the truth of how I've had to deal with. I don't know if you remember, Wayne, I used to send you messages saying, hey, when can I get one of those dies? And you'd say, I got a new batch coming up. Watch for them. You'd send me a text, say they got up there. I wouldn't get to it right away. And a couple days later, they'd be all sold out. And I'd say, Wayne, I thought you said you put them on the website. And you'd be like, I did that day, right when I texted you. But that's how quick they go out that quick.
Yeah. We made a lot of 223 dies, and within a week they were gone. If you go on the site right now, you're going to see sold out. In fact, one of the things I stopped doing was allowing pre-orders. I'm not going to do it anymore. Because if I project 3 weeks or 4 weeks for a particular die, and I'm a week late, I might upset somebody, and I don't want to do that. So going forward, I'm not allowing any pre-orders. When they're there, you happen to hit on it, buy your die. If they're not there, you got to wait it out.
That goes for the general public.
Have a choice. I'm too busy all day long to have to answer to customers that don't deserve that waiting time. So rather than allow it to happen, I figure it's best that I don't sell them until they're actually in stock. So I'm not doing pre-orders. That's pretty much what I meant by that. I'm not allowing pre-orders.
But on your site, you also are going to be selling other stuff, right? You got some other cool stuff on the shop.
I'll give an example. I like Seymour red dots. Okay, that's what I use on my own guns. That's the red dot that I compete with, and I developed a friendship with them. And talking to Tanis one day, and I said, I should probably sell them on my site. It's a good quality item that I know I can trust and count on, and I know my customers will too. So I may as well sell them. So I added those, and then I added their AR scopes, which nobody knows a thing about, and they're phenomenal. We'll get into that another time. And then just recently, the PPBs are gone, and the Acuras are in. And there are other products that I'm looking at selling that we don't manufacture, but they're excellent products. I want to make them available to the reloaders that visit our site, or maybe somebody that hears about it on social media or sees an ad. Of course, Mach 7's on there now too. And what I did there is I just pictured an Evo press and left in the comments to contact me for, different press prices and options, information, and so on. So I usually get a call. I mean, nobody just goes on a website and says, yeah, I'm going to buy that press and pushes a button unless they know that press really well. So those are the add-ons to date. There will be others. There will be more.
Just reading through these comments here real quick. I see, Mike, you want to highlight that last one on the bottom there? Yeah, so I can tell you for sure what I've dealt with is the pins. They do not break if you use these correctly. for us, you know, most of the time, us running auto presses, they'll break. A pin will break if it goes sideways and it slides down the side of a case. That's when you get a broken pin. For me, anyways, these pins will not break with any down. You can take a burdained case, steel case. I honestly don't care what it is. You can run it through with one of these pins, and you'll turn it into a boxer primer with these. They won't break, but they will break if you get a little side flex, and then the pin rides down the side of your case. That's the only time I've ever really broken a pin that I can think of. And if you run your press right, you won't break a pin. So that last comment, he said he was running, I don't know if he was running one of yours, Wayne. I'm guessing so. Okay, so he says he was snapping pins on his 650, and then he contacted you, and you talked him through, and you helped him realign his press, sent him out some new pins, and he's still 4,000 cases later on the same pin that you set him up with.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
So yeah, so what I'm basically saying is, if you're running it correctly, you won't break these pins. You will break them if you get side flex. From what I've experienced, if you get a rock, that's the only other time I've broken one. If I've gotten a rock
and a flash hole, yeah, you can't help it.
It'll then, yeah. But just normal use.
Well, let me say this to you. That pin that you're holding in your hand, we had tested at Felch Industries, and they test with dead weight. So basically what we did was we took the die you just had, we turned it upside down, and we laid it on a steel tabletop. And there are arms, and this is like a really slow motion guillotine, okay? They lowered down a massive steel cylinder, and it moves 50 thousandths every minute, okay? So what it does, it came down on the pin, and it continued to come down, and the pin break point was right at the end of the pin, the top of the pin where it meets the barrel of the body of the pin, was 672 pounds of dead weight.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if you remember, Mike, we actually played that video on one of our podcasts.
Yep.
Okay, so now that you mention it, I'll give you a little bit of insight. We have a new die coming for the autos called the Super Duty. There's a couple of really unique features about it, okay? It's a spring-loaded shaft, just like you're familiar with now with the new blue, but in a much more sophisticated and stronger way. And it will actually do three things. First, when it hits a primer, the spring will collapse to a point where it's going to stop because it's progressive, like a racing strut. Okay. And at that point, it'll just shoot that primer out of the pocket. Okay. That's number one. Number two, if you have a case come in sideways and that pin comes down, like you said, there's always a chance you can snap a pin or bend a pin, right? This pin is on a pivot point. It can move in any direction. Okay. So if your pin is coming down and that case is here and you're right at the head, that pin is going to hit it. It's going to change. It's going to deflect off of it and shoot the case away. It's going to push it back and out of the way.
That's neat.
The other thing it will do, if you happen to come down on a Berdan, the pin will literally collapse up into the die where it cannot puncture it. And the shaft up top, like on a Lee die, will hit a micro switch and shut your ammo bot press off, so that can't progress to the next station. What I learned was, yeah, we can punch through a lot of Berdans, and then there's some that we can't, depending on how much zinc is in the brass or in the copper, which makes the brass. By not allowing the pin to get through it and shutting the press down, you're not having to stop and remove the Berdan or gamble on loading the Berdan, which gets to the next station. You follow that?
You can cull that piece out right there.
You can cull it immediately. You just jog it up, pull the case out, throw it away, and keep going.
See, so for some guys, they might be saying, I don't care about this, but for guys running auto presses, these type of things are a big deal.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah, that's why we're developing this die. This die is strictly for automated presses. I mean, you wouldn't use it on the 650 or an L AP or something to that effect. It's strictly for automated. It's a steel die too. It's not aluminum. This is the beef. Believe me when I tell you. This is a very, very sturdy die. In fact, do you know Ed Cave? Veterans Brass. He's been testing for me, and a few others have. And if you want to look for him on Facebook or MeWe, it's Veterans Brass Ed Cave. Just ask him, how he was making out with the prototype I sent him. He's just spent the last 2 or 3 days with it. I got some great feedback from him too. Yeah. And that's another thing I've always done too. I always send prototypes to a number of different people and get a lot of feedback from them, so I can dial in exactly what the die needs to satisfy everybody and make it great. I've never relied on only my own designs or instincts to make it the best it can possibly be. And I've been doing that since day two, actually, since day two. Yeah.
Yeah, take feedback from everybody else, not just have a big head and think your product's the best out there and not listen to anybody.
Been doing this since day two, believe me when I tell you. Yeah, there's a lot of things I've done that were, well, I'll give you an example. My pins, if you recall, were flat at the base of the shaft. So a customer, I didn't know him at the time. His name is Chad Roberts. He owns Precision Brass down in Mississippi. And he sent me a video. And he told me everything he liked about the blue die and the one thing I should do to change it. And that was to take the flat base above the pin on the shaft, because at the time, the pin was all one. It didn't screw in like it does now. And what he said was, if you're rocking with 223 cases, that flat above the pin itself, it's like a T, will catch the edge of a case and nick it. So that angle that you see there is what I added onto it. I reduced the flat with a radius for strength and put the angle there so that the case could feed into the case easier. Now, the new AP pin, which I reintroduced, I think you have some of those, will be standard on the new Super Duty decapping die. That has no radius whatsoever. It's the barrel, comes into a 70-degree radius. It's 74 diameter, reduces to 72. Then the last 1/3 of the pin is at a 3-degree angle. And at the stop point, which is 450, there's a full radius with a flat of 15 thousandths in diameter. So it's really going to do everything that we need on an auto press to decap and never have a failure and stop the machine when there is a possible failure. It'll be near impossible to bend or break a pen. And by the way, anybody that's listening out there, if you're interested in our dies, you can contact me anytime. Phone, text, email, messenger, however. I'm always available. But also, if there's something you'd like to buy or try, type reloading, all capital letters, in the discount box, and then update your cart, and you'll save 10% on anything you might want to buy. We'd appreciate your business, and we're happy to give you the discount to get you on board and part of the Mighty Armory family.
Oh, thank you, Wayne. That's really generous.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, it was good to be here tonight. I'm glad your listeners had an opportunity to hear me talk with all you good folks, and hopefully it generates some questions that they may want me to answer for them at some point down the road or tomorrow. I
I'm
appreciate
sure-
being here. I want to thank you for
I
inviting me.
appreciate you coming on. Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to look through our comment section on YouTube. I know there was a couple of questions, but yeah, if you guys
I'll be
have any other
I'll be-
questions, shoot them straight over to Wayne over at mightyarmory.com.
He's
Yeah,
got
I'll
a
be
great
available,
contact
so.
site.
Yeah. And if you guys need anything, certainly contact me. We're here for you. All right,
Thank you.
brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank
It
you.
was great being here. Hope I didn't bore you.
No,
No,
you
no.
didn't.
Not at all,
Oh,
Wayne. Thank
Taking
you.
all
Okay,
our
good.
money.
Yeah, well, I can help you. Give me a buzz. You all have a great night.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Wayne. I'll text you in a while. Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
brothers.
Wayne.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And sister. Bye.
He had me at colors.
Yeah, do you guys get tired of spending all of our listeners' money? Because I don't.
No. No.
Yeah, I can say for sure his sizing dies are top notch.
Especially that bum from Minnesota. I love
Yeah,
spending his money.
Yeah, he did just get a nice haul the other day. I seen.
Uh-huh. And he didn't send me anything, so I don't know what the heck. I tell you.
Well, what did you do in shooting and reloading, Mike?
I realized that the notes that I thought I had for the show that we were going to post weren't correct in any way, shape, or form. So I've been going through and listening and writing up the proper notes so I can get that posted. Other than that, not much because I worked at Cabela's.
Well, that's shooting and reloading itself.
So
That's at least reloading.
yeah,
Guns and reloading.
it's supposed to get up in the 50s this weekend, so I'm going to definitely sneak out to the range. Drag the lab radar with me. So,
Well, Jason, I think you might have been out shooting some steel. Oh, wait, I haven't shipped you that yet.
No,
oh, Travis is using Mike Iceland's shipping department now, huh?
I paid for it. Don't get it. I think I have to go there and beat his ass or something. I don't know.
You might get it if you come back. That might be what I have to do is not send it to you and make you come and get it.
Okay. You know what I didn't mention is when I went up there, I had my steel gong you sent me and the A. What do you call those? The
The A stands.
A stands. I carry them around in my truck all the time, so I had them up there with me. Yep, there you go.
That looks like a huge bottle opener.
I'm actually redesigned some of our stuff, so I think I'm going to send you one of the very first ones, Jason. The new spinner will just use these A stands, so it makes it super lightweight and more portable.
Okay. And Travis, I got a question for you. So several times when we went up there, we knocked the stand down from the steel swinging. What can I do to help avoid that?
Well, are you on? Depends. Like, are you on a slope? Are you level ground? So I've had some guys testing this, and I forget what he was shooting it with. He's only been able to knock his stand over a couple times, and it was with something pretty significant.
Well, we were shooting this with the 300 Win Mag. It was a very slight slope. It was almost level, but it was a slight slope.
Yeah, you like I said, honestly, the easiest thing would be, depends on what your ground's like. If it's soft, just jam those EMT legs into the dirt.
Okay.
The other next thing is we could come up with some kind of little anchor piece that goes over the EMT to actually, tap it into the ground with some anchors.
Okay.
So, Jim, what'd you do?
If I can do it without choking myself, I annealed some brass, and then when I got done with that, I started deburring the inside flash holes from that brass I bought.
Let me guess, 308's what you were working on?
Yes, sir.
All same head stamp?
No, 3 different head stamps, but they are segregated. Got some LC match, and got some what do you call it? The some old FC brass. This stuff dates back to the 50s. I don't know where it's been, but it looks pretty good. Been sitting in somebody's shelf somewhere. And anyway, I annealed all the cases because it's something that old, it's going to have some age hardening on it. So I annealed every case and just starting from scratch, as it were.
Jim, hit me up next time you need some 308 brass.
No, we're liable to get into a discussion I refuse to get into tonight.
Hey, I shipped you your stuff.
Not to me. Not to me, you didn't. Not to me, you didn't. You shipped it by way of Iceland Supply.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
we all
you're
know how
complaining.
slow Iceland Supply is.
I got my package today. I don't know what you're complaining about. Mine shipped out on time.
Well, considering I was supposed to ship that out 4 months ago.
My hands are empty.
Yeah, but I say you contact me. I'll get you something. I shouldn't have shipped it to Mike. I was being like us reloaders. I was being frugal with the shipping.
Especially when I told him I'd pay for the shipping.
Oh, nice. Looks like I got another package coming. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, Sharinda, but I normally try to, or whoever, we try to place you and me last because I guarantee you and me have done quite a bit more in reloading. So don't let me down. What have you been up to?
Me? Oh, I gotta go next.
Please.
Alrighty. So I'm changing out my Dylan to low 45 the next couple of weeks. I have to show 2 ladies how to do quick change, which I've already shown them, but they need a refresher. And I have another demo at an inner city church for reloading. What else? Cleaned up some more brass, bought some more supplies because I ran. Would y'all believe I ran out? Like I wasn't paying attention and ran out of everything. So trying to get supplies if I can. I got a huge donation of holes. Like literally the whole back of my trunk is full. My back seat's full. They're still in my car because I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna put them until I start loading them.
Yeah, I seen that haul you brought in.
Man, and what else? I have a pheasant hunt this weekend, and I'm prepping for a turkey hunt. Turkey hunt will be my first. And I was asked and officially accepted a board member position at the women's outdoor group that I joined that I've been going on all these hunting trips with. So I'm really excited about that. I feel like I won the Olympics.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
This is
And
a
that's
lady.
it.
This is a lady that puts her money where her mouth is, put her backside pavement to the road. Good on you, girl. Thank you, Sharinda.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of viewers and stuff, and they've mentioned to me they're actually surprised at how much you actually do in reloading and stuff.
Oh, cool. I actually had somebody ask me to post something on YouTube, and I was like, well, there's lots of videos out there. What am I going to contribute? I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I'm going to probably do that this weekend too.
Your contribution. Remember, you and I have a bet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got to figure that one out. I got to order a rainbow here.
Wear a rainbow hat and say, what is that?
No, a unicorn hat and yell while I'm shooting, taste the rainbow.
Okay. Taste the rainbow while wearing a unicorn hat and shooting. This is a unicorn lady. You should make that. You know what, Sharenda? Instead of Pink Shirt Sharenda, you should rename yourself the Unicorn Lady.
See my hat?
Now you look complete. I knew there was something missing tonight.
Yeah, mostly all my hats have a unicorn hidden on them somewhere. That's it. I'll save the rest because Travis tells me I do too much. So
No,
I gotta space it out.
Well, you got to make up for what Jim doesn't do.
I put up with your trash every week, Travis.
That counts. That does count.
I was doing my count. Am I gonna be out of $5 tonight?
I'm trying to hold my tongue. Yeah, I hope I never meet Jim in person because I'm afraid he'll put me in a headlock and take me to the ground.
And lather you with. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, so what I did, I'm just going to say the most important thing that I did was I met one of our listeners today. I think he's in the chat right now too, Idaho Rogers. Met him the other day. He let me borrow his the Franklin Armory stainless steel tumbling pin setup.
Oh, I remember that conversation.
Yeah, and then today he sent me a text this afternoon, and him and I met up, and he bought me lunch. So that was pretty cool. So, and I did get my I haven't even opened it. I ran up. I got my Trigicon RMR back. Haven't even opened it up yet. They sent me a brand new one. I had the Gen 1, and they just upgraded me to the Gen 2 and sent me out a new one. So
What happened to the Gen 1?
It quit working.
Oh.
So I was telling a couple shows back, I took the STI out to the range, and I could just rack the slide, and the dot would go up and to the left. So it was no good. But I say the people at Trigicon were super, super friendly and helpful. That was probably the best experience I've had with dealing with the company.
I wonder if they Googled you.
Probably not. Yeah, I got so our friend Taco, he did get a fake cog. I got a fake RMR off of Amazon not too long ago, and he posted some videos of showing you guys the difference of a fake one and a new actual one. But no, mine was a real one. Hey Jim, you should take the last comment by Fat Elvis. I'm sure you're better at answering that than any of the rest of us.
I think if you use a good press, you're going to be all right. Thank you, Mike. Fat Elvis's question is, do y'all think that seating precision rifle bullets on an arbor press increases your ammo's accuracy potential? Well, it depends upon the arbor press. I would say a reloading press is more like a Redding, the Redding O press, or the RCBS O press, or the RCBS Summit, which is a bench rest press. Even the Forster Coax. Those probably you'd stand a better chance with an arbor press, because most of the arbor presses I'm thinking of, I mean, they're used for serious business. You don't need that much kind of pressure with an arbor press that you get with an arbor press just to seat a bullet.
Well, I know most of the precision rifle guys that I'm watching on YouTube and stuff, that is what they're preferring to seat their bullets.
That's up to them.
It's not like a kind of an arbor press that maybe what you're thinking of. Like they have actual ones for loading ammo, and they got these special little dies you just put together, and you put the whole assembly under it, and you load it that way. I've never actually seen one in person.
It sounds like what you're talking about would be on the order of the Lee loader, the Lee loader Junior, I think it is called, where you tap everything together or tap it apart, depending upon what you got to do. But it's using a press to take and put everything together.
Yeah, Paul just pointed out what the one I'm talking about. It's the 21st Century Arbor Press. Maybe Mike can Google that real quick and show us what it looks like. But yeah, it looks like it's not for any it's just for look from what I've seen, it's just for really precise loading, and it's very slow, but it looks like it would be, pretty nice to get set up with.
Well, it's obvious that I'm not familiar with it, so I shouldn't have said anything. Sorry. I seat my bullets on my Forster. Raggle Fraggle's got a good question. How important is the head stamp of a case? I've noticed that Hornady and LC have a habit of crimping their 223 5.56 primers, but what else is there? Actually, he's got two distinct questions there. How important is the head stamp? That's really insignificant. What really matters is the case capacity. You want to take and use the same head stamp, whether it's Remington, Winchester, Hornady, or whatever, for the brass alloy, but you still got to worry about the case capacity. Jason, you've done some work with case capacity with your quick load stuff, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
And that's one of the criteria you have to what is it called when you brew up a load for a friend? What do you call that procedure? Educated guesswork. I realize that, but I don't mean it to be smartass. But it's like you that quick load program you bought. What do you call that when you develop a load?
Well, I guess like you're anticipating what it's going to do.
It's a educated guess then, or well, not really, not in the sense that we usually use that term with. It's an educated. Sorry.
Now I know, Jason.
Educated phone ringing in the background.
I know Jason's been able to take bullet weight, all of that, and then calculate that out and tell you what the velocities. From what I've seen, he should be able to tell you like velocities, all that. From what, that's it right there. 21st century Arbor press.
Fat Elvis got it. Ballistic predictions.
What does that do?
Now, what do the dies look like? Because I say that's all that is a press. It's an Arbor press. So you stick your die under there. Yeah. The dies are a special setup right there.
Flat die. It's a hand die.
Okay.
You could use a rubber mallet or Arbor press.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with that. I'm not too familiar with the new technology.
It's not bad. Only $135 for the press.
I've actually seen quite a few long-range shooters out in Arizona using those. Yeah.
So the exact person you're probably thinking of is she's on Instagram a lot. Her name's Nine Dolls.
Yep.
She's got some good videos on YouTube and Instagram, and she uses this, I think, this exact Arbor press. And it's 9 Dolls.
Yeah, she's my hero.
Yeah, you can see right there. That's a good picture, that very bottom one, Mike. That shows you kind of what you're dealing with. You stick your stuff in the two pieces, put your case in there, stick it underneath the press, and it gets very, very precise.
So you're talking $395 just for the die.
Wow.
And here's the kicker. They're machine to order. And you have to send 3 pieces of fired and body-sized brass cases and 3 bullets of each style of this you're going to be loading.
Well, I'm out.
That's bad if it's too rich for Travis.
It's also too slow, but that's too much money for me.
I've used the Wilson hand dies like Paul Nelson was talking about. And then I just got an Arbor press from Harbor Freight, because literally a Arbor press is an Arbor press. I don't think you need anything special. But that was more for when I was testing concentricity. And I quickly learned if you set your dies up correctly, you're not going to have an issue with concentricity. You have to make sure they're set up correctly, though.
Fat Elvis, you're not wrong.
I can't find this $9 y'all talking about.
Oh, I'll send her to your inbox.
Thank you, dear.
I don't stalk her.
No,
Not really.
no.
Not really.
Hey, us reloaders got to stick together.
Yeah, were you looking on Instagram, Jim?
I did.
Okay, that's
I
where
sent her
that's
to
where.
her.
Perfect.
All right, no problem. Well, I just realized, friend, I could probably find her through your follow list.
You'll have to dig through food, coffee,
Okay.
gun stuff, and
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all Sharenda's is gun stuff and coffee. That's all I seen on
Hey,
her
that's all I
stuff.
need.
I know she loves it, and I know she lives on it. Excuse me. Thank you, Hunch Off-Road. Appreciate that.
She's actually sponsored by Franklin Armory, not Dylan.
One thing I like about her is she keeps her clothes on.
Very good. We've had a conversation about that before. That was over on Instagram. It's not reloading related.
Hey, I'm just glad we keep our clothes on this podcast.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Dad bods need love too. Just
Except for that Trumbo guy. He needs to put clothes on his scalp. Where's your ball cap, Jason?
The other room.
I should talk. Mine's getting really, really thin.
Yeah, God help us if we ever all get together in person, huh?
I'm not sure the room would survive.
Yeah, Chico, I think we did talk about crimped brass, which we prefer swaging or cutting it on a cut. We're going to redo a bunch of stuff here pretty soon, I think, though.
Personally, I think I came down on the swaging side. Just recently that brass I just bought, I didn't like the way the primer pockets look, so I tried my Lyman primer pocket decrimping tool. It's like a reamer. It's like a form tool, like a lot like a chamber reamer, a forming reamer, and it works pretty well. The only thing is you got to keep it nice and straight, otherwise you take the side out of the primer pocket.
Yeah, I would prefer to move the material rather than cut and remove it. But you just reminded me of something that I did do, Jim, and I've pretty much took the tip from you. So I was loading up some new. I cast it up and hold on. I cast it up and did something else to some projectiles, and then I had to go load them.
You lubricated them.
I lubricated, correct. So I got that all out of the way, and then I went to load them up, and the Hornady die, the seating stem was leaving a slight ring that I didn't like around it. So guess what I did?
Tried some hot glue.
I hot glued her. Yep.
Very good.
Took some hot glue, took a projectile and put the glue in the stem.
Right.
Shoved it in there and just made my own custom formed.
Custom fitted seating plunger.
Worked like a charm, and it's holding really great, consistent seating depths and everything.
The bullets you were reloading, the bullets you were seating, what kind of bullets exactly were they?
They were ones that I casted up.
Okay, so it fit Was it like a round nose bullet?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they were some round nose. Round
Okay.
nose 147 grain. New out of it's the new NOE mold. I'm hoping to shoot some 147 grain projectiles this year for 3-gun.
Mike, if you would highlight, thank you. Anyone, Dulce Vita 51. Anyone else doing Corbin jacketed bullet swaging? I have my Corbin Mighty. It's a very old press, and I actually make my own jackets out of 22 rimfire cases, Dulce Vita. Thank you for bringing that topic up. I do not have the jacket forming tools that I need. They're very, very, very expensive, and you actually have to cut copper tubing very precisely with pinch trim and all that sort of thing. And that's... If you're doing that, you're way out there. You're just about as far out as you can get. You can make your jackets for practically nothing, but you still got to buy that copper. It's expensive. Whew. Thank you for bringing the topic up, sir. Ma'am, whichever. Yep, it is a little light, but it works. I've got several thousand bullets made. A lot of them go down my Mini 14 barrel.
All right, gang.
Yeah, J4 jackets, Paul. What you're talking about, Paul Nelson. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. I know where you're going.
I was just going to say thanks to Jake and Ryan over at Patriot Patch Company for being bandwidth sponsor. That's patriotpatch.co. Make sure you check them out. All sorts of awesome stuff. Should be getting my March patch here pretty quick. So. But here's another question. Kind of goes back to one of the things that Wayne was talking about earlier. Does swaging the primer pocket fix the primer suck in?
Mostly what happens is it just sometimes, I forget what the exact wording is for, but on an automated setup, and that's mostly what Wayne's dealing with. The pin will actually push the primer out, and then as the pin comes back in, it hasn't punctured the primer or nothing like that, but it kind of just sucks it back in. And as it goes to the next station, which is the swaging station, it can jam up and cause some issues. There's a word for it.
Pullback, you guys call it.
Yeah, we call it pullback, but I can't remember what there's a terminology for why it happens.
I told you. Dylan calls it primer withdrawal.
Yeah, there's a reason for it. And some people have said, I know some people actually hook up like a vacuum line in their reloading shop. So they suck air. So not only is it once the primer pulls out, I'm not saying this is why, but it has a little bit to do with like a vacuum pressure and getting sucked back up into it. So some guys will hook a literal shop vac up. So that pulls with air the primer.
My newest set of Dillon dies, I don't remember what caliber they are. My newest set of Dillon dies has a snap ring on the decapping pin. And when you decap, it actually puts a little pressure, vertical pressure on the decapping pin. The snap ring gives just a little bit. And when the primer comes out of the pocket, it snaps down. And that sudden jerk like that usually pops the primer right off the decapping pin. And the reason for that, I'm not sure who asked, but somebody did. The reason for the primer withdrawal, if the anvil is getting stuck on the end of the decapping pin. Why? Because they're almost the same exact size. The decapping pin goes into the anvil of the primer, and it's a perfect press fit. Thank you, Fat Elvis. That's it.
Yeah, and basically what Wayne was saying, he's got something very similar. That's kind of how his new flicker dies work.
That'll be good.
So Chico Wise wants to know any would ever convert a press that uses 310 dies to the now standard 7/8 dies.
Is he talking about the old True Line Junior?
Not sure.
Chico, is that the old True Line Junior press you're talking about? The Lyman True Line Junior? Have to wait for Chico to come back on.
I've heard of 310 dies, but I don't know.
I think they're the True Line Junior. Looks like you're going to lose your bet, Shrenda.
I've never heard of this 310 dies before.
True Line Junior Press.
So Paul's saying that Lyman makes a conversion.
Yeah. So there's in the chats, they're talking about the new Lee APP press. I have not used it for swaging or anything. I picked up mine mostly for swaging projectiles or sizing projectiles. So I cast it up. It has at least 1,000 projectiles, and I lubed them up and I ran them through that APP press, and it was so much better than doing it the other way.
I hated my Lyman 450. I wound up giving that thing away to a deputy sheriff up in Cattaraugus County, New York State. I hated that 450.
Yeah, if you have to size projectiles, I highly recommend getting this Lee APP press. See, I got my bullet feeder running on it, so I could just pour my projectiles in the bullet feeder, and it would fill up my tube. And I just sat there and just as fast as I could crank the handle on that thing, I was sizing projectiles.
Jason, you remember Gerald Beatty's setup where he had a little motorized thing where he was all he had to do was place a bullet, and then the setup would take everything he did for him? That was years ago.
Yeah, I do remember that.
He had it all motorized. Well, I saw Travis's little video about that. It's just pretty slick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way he's doing that. As quick as he can move, the bullet just keeps on feeding.
And for as cheap as that thing is, man, I can't see how someone couldn't just pick one up. Titan Reloading. That's where you need to go to pick one up, too.
So, Travis, buy some, send them to all of us so we can check them out.
I second that.
Well, Sherendo said she'd take her 550 down just to try that Lee APP.
I would.
See? I wouldn't lie.
So, hit, hunt, shoot, off-road, would you, Mike? So he says, hunt, shoot, off-road. Does the Lee APP have an advantage over the 750? I'd say they have advantages and disadvantages over each other, but for me, the biggest advantage is speed and price on that APP press. So you can reload with that APP press. You can swage, bulge bust, size projectiles. It's all feeds itself, so you just fill up your tubes, and you can use the Lee. I got one sitting over here that's multi-tube adapter set up. It's got the 4 tubes. You can just fill up the tubes with whatever you're doing, and you can just go to town on that. As long as you can keep that thing fed, it's literally as fast as you can pull the handle. You can deprime, swage, all of that, and they got the little special shell plate that's a through shell plate, so it feeds it, grabs. Let's say you're decapping, it'll drop the brass into the the carrier, push it forward, drop it off on the shell plate. You decap it, and then the next one comes in and pushes it off, and the new one gets pushed in its place. And it's pretty neat. And like you said, it's fairly inexpensive. I can't remember what I paid for it at Titan, but it was significantly cheaper than anywhere else.
Oh, Fat Elvis, you just started a war. That's as bad as a Glock versus 1911 versus 9mm versus 45. Oh my God.
The main reason is because they do not intend on reloading or hand loading.
They don't cater to us, Fat Elvis. That's why.
Or they drink the Glock Kool-Aid and think that it's the best handgun on the face of the planet and buy that.
Yeah, I bought a 5-gallon bucket of 40 brass.
You're talking to a heretic right here, guys. I reload my Glock ammunition with cast bullets. Oh my God. And I just went against everything Gas Glock has ever told you. And I have shot probably 40, 50,000 rounds through that Glock 22 stock barrel.
How do you deal with the bulge?
What bulge?
Don't have one.
Don't have one.
I don't have one either. I shoot my reloads through my Glock too, and I don't have casket bullets.
Yes, you do. The projectiles you're using with that strange color coding on it, those are cast bullets, dear.
Not all the bullets I reload are casted.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, you're using jacketed, aren't you?
Yep.
Good for you. Well,
great. They got rid of the unsupported chamber, didn't they?
That was
thank you, Raggle Fraggle, and thank you, Paul. Paul Nelson. Paul Nelson says, wait till I blow a case head in a handgun. Well, 40, 50,000 rounds. Oh, okay, maybe my next round.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Jonathan Whitney said Glock Bulge was Gen 1 and Gen 2. Gen 3 Plus has basically fixed that problem.
Well, I will give you that one because my barrel is a Gen 3.
Yep.
Mine's is Gen 4.
Ooh, fancy. Somebody spent some money.
Mine's aftermarket, but I have to finish putting the rest of the Glock together. Because it's actually a polymer 80, not a regular Glock.
I know where there's a ghost gun built on a Glock frame.
Nice.
And it's not in my hands or my possession.
Well, that's no fun then.
Yep, I've handled it quite a few times.
Nice, Chico. There you go. I say, so that tells me what gen of Glocks my local police department had, at least when I bought that, because I got a 5-gallon bucket of brass and all of it's got the bulge.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, HSO. Appreciate that. Raggle Fraggle, I bought a mold from AccurateMolds.com to cast myself some 145 grain semi-wide cutters. They're sort of a clone copy of the old H&G number 68 bullet, which was a 200 grain semi-wide cutter, 45 ACP. Yes, I just told you, AccurateMolds.com.
He doesn't want to cast them. He wants the bullets.
Oh, he wants to buy the bullet. Oh, that's correct. Okay.
I don't know. Let me take a look quick while the rest of these people are talking. So. I want to say The conversation is just riveting.
Absolutely.
Riveting, I say.
Thank you, Chico. Appreciate the backup on that. Accurate Molds makes some nice bullet molds. Somebody was asking questions in the Reloading podcast group, I think. One of them. And they were asking questions about shooting 44 Magnum in his Henry. And we were clear up to what? 568 grain bullet and a 44 Magnum. That's a heavy bullet. I actually helped a friend develop a load for his 44 Magnum. He was using, instead of 250 grain semi-wad cutter, he was using a 368 grain flat pointed bullet, as I recall. And he was concerned. He didn't know where to start. And he wanted to know how far he could go. And because pressure is pressure, we created a formula where he could generate using the velocity, where he could generate just roughly the same pressure. And turns out my formula came within a gnat's eyelash of where he said he knew he'd gone far enough. Let's see here what we got.
Raggle, I found a 245 grain bullet for 21 cents a piece.
That's for his 300 blackout, Mike?
Yeah, but he wants 220. So. Pizza Hut.
Shit.
Twice in one episode.
Oh, sorry, that was too fast.
Jim is not amused.
We are. Well, hello, Mr. Sharp. Nice of you to join us finally.
I know who it is, and it's like I'm going to tell her when I call her later. Don't do that anymore. Next time, I'm going to unplug the damn phone.
Hey, Jason, you should just occasionally on the show, you should call Jim.
I don't have his home phone number.
Oh.
He's got my cell number. He knows I'll pay back. Hokum, that timestamp would be about 1:25. 1 hour, 25 minutes.
Good grief.
Sorry about that. Next time, I will go up and unplug the phone system.
Let's see here.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Hokum. It's right here. I got it on vibrate only. Nobody will hear a sound. Because I know Hookum's got my phone number too. Jason, you're a dog. You ain't no damn good.
Had to test it.
Thanks, Randa. Appreciate the link.
So yeah, this is definitely kind of a different show.
Rather freeform, eh?
Yeah, it was fun to have Wayne from Mighty Armory on, though.
Very informative, gentleman. Very well educated, good businessman too.
Yep. Checking Magnus bullets quick if I can get it to load, but it's being slow. So.
What does Jonathan Whitney have to? What does he mean by his question?
So he set up. Mike might know about what it is, but he showed me. I don't get what it is, honestly.
So what Discord is it is a kind of like a chat on steroids. Anybody who's been on TRN lately, Real Loaders Network, switched from Slack to Discord. So it's a little more flexible of a platform. So not only can you have chats on there, but you can have your different rooms and forums and stuff, and all that stuff. I don't know. I'd love it, honestly, Jonathan, but I don't know how much use it would get within the first few months. So, but yeah, I would. It'd be really nice especially because the nice thing is it's not Facebook, and yeah, we're getting some traction on MeWe, but I mean Discord. A lot of people use it for where it really got its start was gamer chats. So
yeah, that's what he actually. There actually is a Reloading Podcast Discord page, I guess. So
oh, awesome.
I say he showed it to me, it looked just like gamer stuff, and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, Discord's actually pretty nice. It really irritated my kid when he found out I was in Discord. He's like, "Wait, what are you doing on there?"
Well, hello, Josh from Sun Valley.
So just to give you a quick pick of what Discord it's kind of like a forum or a bulletin board, but not really. So, I mean, you've got all these different things you can kind of see on there. But so you've got different categories you can split everything up into and different things like that. So, you know, if you want to have a buy and sell page, you can have a buy and sell post page. You can have one for just announcements. So any of the new updates, that type of thing. So it is a really cool thing, and it's one that's going to stay around. So yeah, like Chico says, it takes getting used to. But once you get used to how it works, it's really nice. So but yeah, that'd be awesome.
Chris Sharp, you smart ass you.
That's funny.
Yep.
So, yeah, like Sharenda says, it does definitely come in handy. So, where's Zach's question?
He was wanting a suggestion on a long range powder for 308. I gave him a suggestion of IMR 4895. Jason backed me up on that. Somebody else come up with IMR 4600, and I told him another powder to try might be IMR 4064.
So, a lot of the powders that have come out in the last bit, especially like the crikey, the new powders from Hodgdon.
The Enduron.
What's that?
Those Enduron ones?
Yeah. The Enduron runs, there's a couple of those that are supposed to be really good for 308.
Isn't that Varget powder pretty good powder? I've never tried it, but isn't it pretty good for 308? I know a lot of folks use it for 223.
It's handy for 308, but it's not necessarily really good for 308. The problem that I've heard, and I haven't loaded any of it. My Varget's still up there unfilled or unopened. So, is it once you start getting out there a bit, it starts to lose. So. Because you don't get as much oomph out of it in the beginning, so you're not getting the speed that you need to get out there far. So there's a lot of stuff out there on the forums about who's using what powders and what success they've had. I don't remember what Jeremy was using, but I want to say it was 4064, I think.
He was digging the MR2000.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do some research this week and kind of figure out, and I'll let you know next week, Zach. So, all right, gang. Paul Nelson said Reloader 15. That's another good one. So, but. So, I mean, there's a lot of options for 308 out there. So it's a matter of trying to figure out.
Thank you. The Lakeview Outdoor reminded me there's an H4895 too. Yeah. Zach, you might catch that. It's a Hogden powder, H4895.
Yep. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff out there. So I'll kind of get a list and come up with the best couple that people are having success with. So, but just because the other problem, you're not funny hook 'em. The other problem you run into is your rifle may not like the same powder as somebody else's rifle. So, I mean, your mileage may vary always. So, you're even less funny, Sean. All right, gang. So thank you to everybody that sends us emails, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Everybody that gives us a call or leaves us a text, leaves us a voicemail, 608-467-0308. That is a Google Voice number. So thanks to everybody who joins us in the chat and gives us thumbs up every week, especially everybody, just grateful for all of the feedback and questions and everything. Just can't say thank you enough. Thank you to everybody that swings over to firearmsradio.tv, hits up the Brownells and the Amazon affiliate links. Thanks to everyone who has gone to firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast and hit up the link to join up on Patreon. So greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate everybody who joins, everybody who sends us any sort of feedback, says thanks, says hi. So. And on that note, gang, keep your brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Get out and powder coat.
He said it, not me. Not me.
Show a lady how to reload. She just might like it. Who owes me $5?
Travis.
I think Travis does.
That's one of my outro taglines. What that doesn't count.
The whole show.
I did say the whole show, Travis.
Take somebody shooting. That's the most important thing you could do. Educate people. Support the Second Amendment. Join the NRA. Join the Second Amendment Foundation. Do something.
And most importantly, get out and vote.
That's right.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, y'all.